me tell you something. Compensating men are everywhere. But confident men, they're like unicorns. Almost mythical creatures. When I first started this journey of becoming a better man, I was compensating all the time. There was this drop almost in my energy. Physically, I can feel it. This drop of energy down to like my lower stomach area of confidence, where I could look at myself and look at others and look at the world in a more centered, certain way that I just didn't have. I could see it in other men, but it wasn't present in my body. I wouldn't film videos like this in front of my ex-girlfriend because I was afraid of her judgment. I didn't reach out to people because I didn't think I was worthy of their time. And arguably, the hardest for me was that I would make promises to myself over and over and over again, and rarely would I follow through on it. And then it got to happen. I went through a gnarly breakup with my partner at the time, and I got to learn that deeper confidence only comes through vulnerability. I can't believe I'm here in an apartment complex right after the new year, applying to move out of the house into a new apartment. And I didn't like that. Men don't like that. We're way more comfortable with our armor on. And being vulnerable is the exact opposite. It's taking off the armor so you can see what's underneath. The visual I keep getting is, have you ever seen a naked turtle? Like a turtle without a shell? Exactly. And fun fact, turtles can't live without their shells, but you get the point. Let's use a more masculine archetype to prove this point instead of a turtle. Although, don't fuck with the wrong turtle. Let's use the warrior. The warrior has a really strong armor, and the safest place for him to set it down is at home. But if he's never truly set it down in front of himself, how can he set it down in front of his family? There's a lot of pressure there, and we care way too much what they think. They need me to be safe. They need me to be solid. They need me to be centered. Actually, matter of fact, so do the people who work for me. And you know what? My mom too. She needs me to be her rock. And this archetype, when operating from a place of fear, easily becomes the center of the universe, at least to him. So what do? We overcompensate. And compensation is the giving something to someone in recognition of loss, injury, or suffering. As men, we tend to give money, bravado, and control in exchange because people are losing out on and they're not getting our authentic selves. We're not giving that, so we're compensating by giving these other things. It's way easier for me to give you $1,000 than to give you a piece of my heart or to show you my true desires. It's easier for me to spend $1,000 than to look inward and confront what's really going on. So here's the real question. Why would I risk being vulnerable with anybody else or even myself if it's easier to just give the $1,000? In the top 5 regrets of the dying by Bronnie Ware, the number 1 regret is that I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. If you choose to live this life in fear because you're afraid of what everyone else is going to think, you'll end up on your deathbed wishing you lived a completely different life. But thankfully, you're still alive, which means you still have time to shift your compensating over to authentic confidence. One tool that's helped me uncover a deeper sense of confidence is this. You can see how much wear this book has on it. It's called Rediscovering the Archetypes of the Mature Masculine: the king, the warrior, the magician, and the lover. But there's one thing in here specifically that's really clicked for me. It's this visual. It's called the Archetypes of the Immature and Mature Masculine. The idea is that we're made up of different parts. In the context of the masculine archetypes that we're talking about in this book, we'll simplify it to 4 parts in specific: the warrior, the lover, the magician, and the king. Each of those parts has a different expression. Let's take the warrior specifically here. The warrior looks like this. It has a passive shadow over here, aka not enough of it, an active shadow over here, aka too much of it, and then the warrior in his fullness, just right. I think Little Red Riding Hood's soup story had more to teach us than we thought. The passive shadow for the warrior is the masochist. This is the pushover, the man who looks at other men as so powerful, only to keep themselves down though. It's an energy of trying to suppress myself by raising others. This is also the yes man. And then you have the active shadow. the warrior in the sadist mode. This is the savage man, the one who beats his wife, unjustly explodes on his kids or employees, and is responsible for a lot of the pain in the world. This is the archetype most associated with toxic masculinity. Then up here you have the warrior in his fullness. This is the highest expression of the warrior. The warrior who is skillfully swinging his sword. He knows when enough is enough, but isn't afraid to go into battle. Now this language is a little archaic, but the idea is that all of us have this archetype within us. The part of us that is the warrior, the one that is going to fight, whether it's for our family, whether it's for what we believe, but it's learning to hone the skills of the warrior that allows you to operate in the fullness of this archetype. The way to create more genuine confidence and compensate less is to look at this spectrum, look at the active pole and the passive pole, and see genuinely where are you operating in the shadows. Then it's so easy to overstate that, but genuinely looking at yourself and taking an authentic look at where am I operating in these shadows is a huge step in this process. Once you do that, then you can say, okay, what does my shadow work underneath that look like? Why am I operating like that? What is my inner child saying? Where are these narratives coming from? What am I afraid of? What limiting beliefs do I have? And that goes for both ends of the spectrum. You ask the same questions underneath. They're just coming out in a different way. It's a lot like how the hero and the villain often have the same story. They just took two different routes. The sadist and the masochist often have a similar story. They just went two different routes with the story that they had. Children of addiction are often the same way. A parent who is an addict either breeds a strong addict or somebody that is absolutely not ever going to be addicted to anything. The poles. And of course, the warrior is only one archetype. You can do this across the 4 in this book. I'll leave this book down in the description. If you're a man on your healing journey and looking at your masculine energy and figuring out how in this world do I live as a masculine man without falling into the trap of, oh, I must be toxic, I would recommend looking at this book and doing some deeper work for yourself. As always, I hope you're able to take this information and apply it to your life and create that 1% shift that will be a huge difference in 10 years, that will make you a different man in 10 years. I love y'all. Peace.